So let me ask you something. Are you really in control of your own mind? Today we're digging into a huge question from the book Beyond Feelings. Who is actually pulling the strings when it comes to your personality, your beliefs, and even the things you like and dislike?
I mean, think about it for a second. Who are you really? All those little preferences, the attitudes you hold, your opinions on everything, where did all that stuff actually come from?
You know, most of us would probably nod along with this statement. It just feels right, doesn't it? We like to think we're the architects of our own identity. But what if that feeling of total control isn't quite the whole story? Is that conscious choice, that feeling of, I picked this, really the full picture? Or could there be other, invisible forces at play, shaping our thoughts and feelings without us even noticing? Okay, so let's start with the basics, the stuff we never think about. The time and the place you were born, these are like your invisible architects. They built a foundation of who you are long before you ever got a say in it. Think about something as simple as personal space. If you grew up in America, you'd probably stand a comfortable distance away from someone when you're talking. But if you were raised in the Middle East, you'd stand much, much closer. And here's the thing, neither one is right or wrong, it's just cultural programming.
And this programming, it runs deep. It can influence who you marry, what food you think is a delicacy versus what's disgusting, and even your basic idea of what it means to be on time. These aren't really conscious choices we make. They're more like scripts that our culture just hands to us.
And then you've got a much more modern architect, the screen. By the time the average teenager turns 18, they will have spent 22,000 hours in front of a television. To put that in perspective, that is literally double the amount of time they've spent in a classroom.
So what does that mean? It means that for a whole lot of us, the biggest influence in our lives is no longer our family or our school. It's mass culture. It's that constant, nonstop stream of commercials, news clips, and social media posts that are shaping our values and what we want out of life. But here's where it gets even crazier. This influence isn't always just some accident. Oh no. A lot of it is actually based on a century of scientific research into one thing: how to make you respond on command. This all kind of goes back to Pavlov's famous experiment, right? He taught dogs to drool at the sound of a bell just by ringing it every time he fed them. It's a simple, automatic, learned reflex. And that basic idea, it became the bedrock for modern advertising and persuasion. And don't think for a second this just works on dogs. A behaviorist named John Watson used the exact same technique to make a little baby terrified of a harmless, fluffy white rat, just by pairing the sight of it with a loud, scary noise. He literally conditioned an emotional response into a child.
The manipulation can be even more subtle, though. Check this out. In an experiment by Solomon Asch, he gave a group of people this list of words to describe a person.
So because the positive words like intelligent and industrious came first, the overall impression people had was pretty positive. That good first impression basically colored how they saw the rest of the list. But then he took another group and gave them the exact same words, but he just flipped the order, starting with all the negative ones.
And the result? The evaluation was overwhelmingly negative. Nothing changed except the order of the words. It's a powerful reminder that just how information is framed can completely change our judgment. And you better believe this is a tool used every single day in politics and marketing. But it's not all about these external forces manipulating us. We also have our own internal biases that make us vulnerable. Sometimes the call is coming from inside the house.
Get a load of this. A survey asked 1 million high school seniors to rate their own leadership ability. A whopping 70% rated themselves as above average. Meanwhile, only 2% saw themselves as below average. That's a lot of Chiefs, right? The math doesn't quite add up.
This is a perfect example of what psychologists call mine is better thinking. And it's a totally natural human tendency to see ourselves, our ideas, and our groups as, well, a little bit better than the rest. It feels good, it gives us confidence, but it can also make us completely blind to our own flaws.
Now, when we take that mine is better thinking and apply it to our whole culture or our nation, that's got a name: ethnocentrism. It's basically a mental shortcut that makes us feel secure by just dismissing other entire groups of people as simplistic or, well, just wrong.
So, after hearing all this, you might be thinking, are we all just puppets on a string? Not at all. Actually, just acknowledging these influences is the very first step toward real freedom. The key is learning to think beyond our initial feelings.
Look, let's be super clear. The point isn't that feelings are bad. Feelings are a huge part of being human, but they are a notoriously unreliable guide to the truth. Feeling that something is true is not the same thing as having a good reason to believe it's true.
And this is exactly where critical thinking comes in. It's not about being some kind of genius, it's a skill. It's the habit of just pressing pause, becoming aware of those outside forces and your own internal biases, and actually looking at the evidence before you jump to a conclusion.
And this, right here, is the real takeaway. True individuality isn't just about picking whatever you feel is right in the moment. It's about understanding why you feel that way, questioning it, and then making a conscious, informed choice. That is how you build a self that is genuinely your own.
So we're left with this question. Your feelings are absolutely real. They're valid. But are they a reliable guide to the truth? That's the question worth asking.